It's an opportunity for us to reframe our relationship with health. In looking at acknowledging that our bias may be towards thinking from a pathogenic mindset, looking around illness and disease as being the focus, to thinking then around if we shifted our frame of reference towards a salutogenic mindset and having an orientation towards health and well-being, acknowledging that the experience of healthcare is part of a life's journey. And there are many factors that a person brings to that experience that have come from when they have been in a space of being able to care for themselves and add value to their life and have developed resources and relationships that enable that. When we are in a space of when we're in a healthcare setting or requiring in a vulnerability such as disease or illness, this is when we need to draw on those origins of health even more. So creating an environment or a relationship where people feel safe to, one, be vulnerable in an environment when they're unwell or a foreign environment, but two, be able to draw on the essence of that salutogenic component, which is those parts that they've developed from when they were sitting on someone's lap to where they are today that enables them to feel safe and bring that safety with them. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Sue Sims.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for that. So I'm just going to speak to the work that we're doing at the Clinical Excellence Commission in partnering with people for safety and quality. First of all, around getting to know our people. So I commenced in this role of partnering with people for safety and quality a little before this time last year. And as we know, that was the beginning of COVID. So I came into a new role that was all about developing relationships and getting to know people. And I really didn't have all that much time, first of all, to get to know the people in our team at the CEC, but also to get to understand who our people were that are on the consumer panel. So I spent quite a bit of time when we all moved off to home and were working in that different environment to take the opportunity to have some quite lengthy conversations with the people that have been partnering with us at the CEC for quite some time. So really getting to know them as human beings, first of all. What is it that, matters to them in being involved with us at the CEC? What do they take from that? How can we support and enable them to bring themselves to the conversations and to bring their whole person, their whole being, rather than narrowing it down to a diagnosis or a particular focus. So what I learned about the people that we're lucky enough to have on our panel is that they have an amazing depth of knowledge and breadth of experience in the world as professionals, as people, as family members, as patients, carers, all of those things, and really to ask them to bring all of that to the relationships that we are working with. So who are our people? We have more than the faces on the screen, but that's just an example of some of our members who are working with us around. So in those conversations that I had with them, it was really about what mattered for them to be able to keep showing up with us and feel valued and be part of our team. And it was really what came through clearly was around the respect and trust and acknowledging them as experts in their life and from their lived experience. That we meaningfully engage with people early, not to wait, as we often do as professionals, to think that we need to solve the problem and then ask people, are we on the right track, or engage them sort of later on in a project or a piece of work. It's how do we bring their voices in as early as possible and find out, are we even going in the right direction? And then what is the level that we need engagement from? Is it really around co-design, or perhaps it is around, developing resources or checking things? But it's giving people the option to work out where they're going to best fit and where their skills are meet our requirements the best. So really that means being heard. So listening to what they've got to offer, being open to different perspectives and new ideas. And when we talk about innovation and creativity and, really moving forward in a world where there are a lot of unknowns, it's coming with that open mind to really listen to what people have got to say and be able to sometimes step back and take a different direction or put things on hold and, slow down a little, because we can get caught up in the doing. So hearing what their perspective is really important. And then as part of a team, we all know that high-performing teams, we need clarity around what our roles are, our purpose, our expectations. So, for our partners, it's including them in those conversations. And ultimately, at the end of the cycle is, getting that continuous feedback on how are things going, what are the results and the outcomes, but how is everything going in the process, and helping them to adjust to the way that we're meeting their needs in the conversations that we're having. And our people at the CEC, it's all of us. I've put up photos of the directors of our teams and obviously directorates, but it's all of the staff at the CEC. And what matters to us is around respect, trust, and collaboration, that we have a safety and quality lens here. So everything is about the safety and quality of patient care and our staff care as well. But that we really want to learn from what patients, carers, and families have to offer. That continuous improvement and innovation is the cycle that we're in. It's never ending, and it would be exhausting, I guess, to think that from one perspective that we're always having to improve, but from the other perspective, it can be really energizing. And to have voices and diversity of ideas and opinions is really where we get our continuous improvement and innovation. And in the end, it's all about those meaningful outcomes for us as staff of New South Wales Health and clinicians, but also for the patients, families and carers, that, their health outcomes, their perception of their experience in the health system are all really important. And we know that their experience is as important as their health outcome, because it comes together as a package. You can't separate those things out. And what I did learn from talking to people, interestingly, was that they are not that comfortable with being labelled as consumers. And I mean, it's really hard to know what language do we use, but in asking them, it was really around, if we're partnering with you, then we're people too. We're not separate. So moving from that concept of us as New South Wales Health staff and them as anyone external who we're engaging with, to we, and how do we work together as teams. So really recognising and engaging with them as experts in their experience. So we know that we have that built-in power differential in a system that's quite hierarchical, but how do we engage with people and help them feel comfortable with us, but also for us to feel comfortable with being vulnerable and being open to people hearing, that sometimes we don't know the answers. Well, clearly from what I'm saying is we don't really want to come up with the answers all the time. We want to open up the space early and acknowledge that their input is valuable in determining the direction that we're going to go in. So it really starts with listening to what matters to people. It's the simple stuff. It seems like a no-brainer at times, but we all know that we can get very sort of professional and move into a space that we think is expected of us in our roles. But what matters to people is really that we listen to them and we acknowledge, again, like I said, that they're the experts in their life. We develop the trusting relationships and respect the lived experience. And this is what then empowers people to be actively involved in their healthcare. So at the bedside, it's around the bringing your expertise into the conversation, but from the perspective of what does this person need from me right now, and how do I meet them where they're at, and tailor what I'm going to say to them or the way I'm going to interact with them according to what it is that they really need. The only way we can do that is by listening to them first. So I thought I'd just share with you some of the work that we've been doing at the Clinical Excellence Commission with from the ground up engagement from our people partners. So you may be aware that the serious incident investigation and management process has recently changed, and there has been a lot of work done in this space to engage a diverse range of people to come up with tools and resources that are going to support people through this process. Underpinning all of that are the guiding principles of immediacy, where we act immediately when people are harmed or at risk of harm, with kindness, so we're caring, fair and just, and we support all who are affected. That's, you know, from the staff perspective as well as the patients and families. And that there's accountability, so we're open when things go wrong. We review things to learn, not to judge or criticise. We make changes to improve, and we share what we find and learn. So really that, you know, learning organisation coming from that perspective. So we've worked closely with our people partners to develop a range of resources that are designed to inform and explain the SIM process to everyone involved. And as I said, that's staff, patients, carers and families. And our partners have been involved in all stages of the development of now 7 toolkits, fact sheets and webinars that are available through the Clinical Excellence Commission, and you'd be able to find on the website. One of the most exciting features, I guess, of the SIM changes to the SIM process from my perspective has been the dedication of a family contact. So a person that is assigned to be the main contact point for the family throughout the SIM process. Someone who meets them where they're at, establishes that trusting relationship through regular communication based on what works for them, what's culturally appropriate, you know, ability to ask questions, explain steps, and keep the families up to date with what can obviously often be quite a stressful time in their lives. And it's that link between the family and the review team, so that really close connection to give them involvement and also to be able to support them. So based on the supporting principles of immediacy, accountability and kindness. We're also working with a lot of teamwork around leadership to enable the optimal patient and staff experiences and outcomes. So it's that two-way reciprocal win-win, I guess, for people. That we all know that the sort of happy worker hypothesis, where if we're taking care of ourselves and we're happy in our work, that the outcomes we're more productive. And for us in the health system, that usually means better relationships with our patients and better health outcomes. So the space that we've recently been working in is around the safety fundamentals for person-centered communication, which is a selection of communication techniques, I guess you might say, to enhance human-centered care and promote the shared decision with patients, families and carers, with a shift of focus to what matters to the patients. So it's about building that collaborative relationship, empowering people, and we've through research and looking what's out there already available, identified a number of so-called techniques or tools such as Teach Back, Hello My Name Is, Reflect to Care, Patient Delivered Handover, Reach, What Matters to You. And the outcomes of using those ways of communicating with people are around improving health literacy, teamwork, safety culture, being more respectful and supportive with personalised care, that we're partnering with people. There's a shared decision making. Their care is coordinated and integrated, and they have an improved patient experience. And you'll see at the top that is all about safety and quality. So you can't have safety and quality without fundamentally having respectful relationships. And that also feeds into the high reliability systems that we're aiming for. Another part of big piece of work has been around the applied safety and quality curriculum development, pathways and programs that we've recently started piloting, which is about developing improvement leaders for the future. So developing the leaders to support the New South Wales health vision for a sustainable health system that delivers outcomes that matter to patients, is personalised, invests in wellness, and is digitally enabled. And the goal is that by 2023, all New South Wales health entities will have sustainable local infrastructure to facilitate the adept level capability for safety and quality programs and pathways. So it will be, taken on by the local health districts and adopted and made to fit with their goals and their direction, but modelled on the philosophy of continuous improvement and partnership with a faculty. So the consumer partners, or people partners, it's hard to not say consumer, has really been on board with the development of the curriculum, on an advisory group and part of the faculty, and will also be involved in the evaluation through development of a logic model. And underpinning the applied safety and quality program is the tenets of safety and quality, which is really around having patient and family engagement as a thread throughout the whole program. Data and evidence is obviously critically important, that we take a multidisciplinary approach. It's always about teamwork, systems thinking, and being able to see things from the balcony rather than the dance floor. So knowing what we have to do from our own individual perspective, but how does this fit with the bigger picture, and how does this fit with the person, the patient? Human factors is a really key component of that as well. We can have all of the policies and guidelines and procedures and all of those structures in place that we know will give us great outcomes, but then it's human beings working with other human beings. So what are the human factors that are going to impact on what we're doing? That leadership is an everyday, from the ground up, part of everybody's role. So leading from where you're at in the system is really critical. Leadership isn't about the position that you hold in an organisation, it's about the qualities that you bring to your role. We're also helping with the facilitation skills, threading through this and working from the HETI facilitation skills development program that some people may have done. It's tying that in, weaving it in. How do you work with people, groups of people, teams of people, to hear different voices and to actually facilitate the voices being heard? And that we're always learning for continuous improvement. It's a never-ending cycle of learning, adapting, reflecting, changing, and starting again. And that's really our job for life. And never forgetting that at the basis of everything that we're doing, it is really around kindness and starting with kin. So the word invites us to think about how we're all human. We're all kin to each other. We've all either been a patient, a carer, or we're a family member of someone who's been in the system or is in hospital right now. It's taking that approach to human contact, and trust develops through those human connections. So bringing ourselves first into the relationship, as well as our professional skills and knowledge, and engaging with people in a way that is going to be of mutual benefit to both of us reciprocally. So I think that's all I had to say right now, and I open up to questions, or Karen might have some more to add to you.
I know. So this, our intent today was to provide some stimulus in regard to the work that we have been undertaking in regard to safety and quality and partnering with people. And we're really interested now to open up to have a conversation in regard to what's happening in your world in regard to partnering, and also how you found that the relational capability building has had an impact on safety and quality in your world from there. So we're open for business. Any thoughts, questions? You can come off mute now. So Sue, would you like to, your process of interviewing or building a bio, so with our people partners. So in coming on board, one of the things we noticed was that we didn't have a relationship with our consumer panel.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? How did you go about that?
As I said, I had conversations with people, and I really came with a blank template to just ask them to talk about themselves and tell me what what mattered to them, why they've been part of the CEC already, and what they've taken from that. But really to just get, I guess, that human connection, so that as things come up through through our workplace, when we need to partner with people and we need to engage with people, that I've got an understanding of who's out there, what are the skills they've got, who might be interested, available, and sometimes to be able to approach them at the last minute, which isn't something that they really like, but just to get that connection so that I don't feel like they're just a number at the other end of the line, that it really is about that human connection first up. So it seems kind of really simple, but when I first came in, there was just a list of people. There were little bios around, what they've done in the past. And I guess I could easily have just put that in a spreadsheet and gone, well, now I know who's here. But I found out so much more by taking the time to have the conversations. And I guess that might not be something that everyone in their roles is able to do. And at the CEC, I feel like I'm a bit of maybe a broker now, to be able to match people, maybe a matchmaker even, I don't know. But yeah, to be able to make those connections and make it as easy for us as possible to be able to work with people all the time. So yeah.
So I think it's realistic that in those, like you said, actually having a person that facilitates those conversations is, because I suppose if we think about change and reform, the way that we operate within health is not familiar to others coming in. So being able to have someone who can facilitate that connection, and build the relationships, because it's a two-way.
Definitely.
And that's, with the person-centered communication tools, one of the benefits of those is about how clinicians can build some relational skills and how they can engage in conversations and look for feedback, which was one of the things you picked up from there. That how, as a clinician or a healthcare professional, can I get feedback from my patient or person that I'm working with? And then also, how does the person, family carer, also engage in a conversation that enables them to also get feedback in a safe environment?
Yeah, and I think putting on the lens, I guess, of being a family member, or even a patient with not a lot of knowledge of the health system, it can be really difficult to do that, because we have a hierarchical system and there is a power imbalance. So it doesn't just asking people, what do you think about that, which is, I have to admit, something that I used to do. isn't asking them really, what do you think about that? Because they'll often be fearful to say. So you have to develop the space first before you're going to get really valuable feedback. Otherwise, it's just tokenistic. Yeah. So.
Can I share our experience?
Yes. I would love to. Who are we talking to?
So my name's Carolyn. I manage the Child and Youth Mental Health Service at Nepean Blue Mountains.
Hello, Carolyn.
Hi. About 6 months ago, so towards the end of last year, we established an advisory group, consumers and carers, for our service. And it was really that situation of I didn't know any of them really, and I chaired the meeting and kind of coordinated it. And so our first meeting, we were all relative strangers to each other, and I just started with giving them some things to comment or give us some feedback about. And one of them was our information sheet that we send out, when people are trying to find out about our service. And I think, as you say, they were like, there wasn't a lot of interaction around it. They basically gave us a couple of points, but, there wasn't, I thought perhaps we could do sort of a lot more. And then as kind of time's gone on and we've now met 5, 6 times, those relationships have developed, and I can really see the quality of the interactions improve, such that the sorts of things that they're offering, at our last meeting was much more nuanced and enthusiastic and innovative than what they were prepared to offer at that first meeting. So I think as you've been speaking about, it really speaks to the importance of developing that relationship and the level of trust that we from our side have with them.
Mm. And it also raises the challenge of fast tracking relationships in times when people are in stress and feeling vulnerable. So I think that's one of our challenges in regard to honing those relational skills, and obviously enabling us to form and work in different ways, but at the same time knowing that there are other environments and contexts where it is very challenging. And it's how we use, reflective practice is one of the tools that we have within the person-centered safety fundamentals. And, as most of us, I imagine, are clinicians or health professionals, but just people in everyday life, in being able to, even in the moment, if you're not able to, for a range of reasons, engage in a relational way, being able to step back and understand think about what happened, why it happened, what are some of the things that I could, improve upon, and what are some of the things that I could explore further for next time, so that, as Sue said, that we're in a process of continuous learning. And that reflective practice, having some peer supervision, having conversations with your colleagues who observe you in practice as well, and being able to provide you in a safe environment some feedback in regard to what they noticed, and what were some of the things that worked well in the relationship, and what were some of the questions that were bubbling up for them. Has anyone else got something they'd like to share?
I might just add around saying that I'm kind of brokering relationships. That sounds a bit odd, but is that my experience now is that once the relationships are going and people at the CEC and the work that we've just demonstrated there have developed their own relationships with the people, and I no longer need to be in the middle of that. So I guess that sometimes people have been coming back to me and saying, is it okay to involve that person in the next thing? It's really not about that. I'm here to say, go forth. And, now you've got the connections, make the most of it. So it's not as though it's going to be a burden to keep, having to partner and collaborate and set people up, because once they're off and running, it's going to, who knows where it's going to go. So that's the nice part, to see that already happening. So in a year, and there were already good relationships happening before I came. I'm not saying I've done all that, but there have been some really good outcomes from that, where people are just going on to bigger and better things, and I kind of hear about it, and it's nice to keep track of that, but I don't need to be in part of it all. So yeah.
All right. So in closing, I suppose, I just, in sharing a reflection, I was reading, as you do, The Art of War, and part of that was a strategist back in BC, and one of the things that came up from that was about how relationships are the core element and should be the driver of any engagement, and how we actually think about if we find our place when we are starting to be combative or competing against something, that's when we need to step back and think about what is the mindset that we're approaching the conversation that we're having. And the saying that which goes around that there are 5 musical notes that make up endless melodies. There are actually 5 attributes, being a mindsets, being behaviors, being skills, but then the human factors of creativity and innovation. Through those 5 factors, also there are endless melodies. And through those melodies is about the relationship between the notes. So we'd like to leave you on that and just to ponder and reflect. And we look forward to, Sue and I have put our contact details up there. We'd be happy to hear back from anyone, or for you to share some of the work you're doing, or so that we can continue to learn. And thank you very much for joining us today for our session around the Patient Safety Awareness Week, and for joining us in our work within the Clinical Excellence Commission and the New South Wales Health System. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.